Hello, Digital Business Evolution. Welcome back to the show. I have such a special guest here today, a dear old friend, one of my first entrepreneurial friends. We did a mastermind together back in 2018, and we've been supporting each other ever since. And you might know her from something different. So today we have the one and only Kelly Chase here. She is an entrepreneur, social influencer, podcast host, speaker, and reality TV star, best known for her role as a castmate on the breakaway hit show Love is Blind on Netflix season 1. With over 400,000 followers on social media, Kelly uses her platform and voice to inspire others and make the most out of where they are in their journey. It's part of Kelly's life's purpose to teach all that she has learned to women all over the world. She believes that if she could feel this newfound confidence, inner love, worthiness, and expansion, that she can actually help other women feel the same way and empower them to fully step into their greatness. What I would say outside of your bio is that Kelly is one of the most kind, humble, grounded, and supportive women in the entrepreneurial and coaching space that I'm so grateful that I met many, many years ago. And I'm just super grateful to have you here today. So Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi. I'm so excited to be here. I just love connecting with you. And I could say the same thing about you.
Well, thanks. We could start every day like this. It's awesome. I love it. All right, let's start with some rapid fire questions because I think that if the audience members do know who you are, they think they know you, but they actually don't. So where were you born? Where are you from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
And where do you live today?
Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. I love it. What are you currently reading?
Ask and It's Given by Abraham Hicks.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie.
I feel like it's going to be a chick flick.
Say that. I want to say it's some like Tom Hanks movie. I'm a huge Tom Hanks fan. But I also love The Sandlot.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid?
So I always said these three things: a baby doctor, a teacher, and an actress.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, you are a teacher and you're kind of an actress.
Right. Yeah. And I kind of feel like the baby doctor thing kind of applies because I have a lot of knowledge about healing and that out. So it has come full circle. But when I was in college, I did not go into doing any of those. So
isn't that the journey though? When people ask me the same question, I'm like, I don't know how I ended up here today, but yet it all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I know. Came full circle.
Yeah. All right. So take me back. You're still in Atlanta. That's where you're from. You went to school for something completely unrelated than what you maybe wanted to get into. I know you from the coaching industry. Like I said, 2018, we did a mastermind together. And in my opinion, you're one of the OG coaches. Like I think about myself. I mean, you've really been doing health coaching for like 10 years at this point. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you do network marketing as well?
I did. Yes. Never, I want to say quote unquote was successful in it. I did, a handful of the different ones. Beachbody was probably the one direct sales that I was in for the longest. But because I did use it and it was that's how part of my weight loss journey was because of Beachbody. So it was very cool, but I was just never, doing the work.
Building the team and all that stuff. So what does your business look like today? Because you have been in health coaching for so long, then you're essentially a public figure, which I definitely want to talk about. And I know you're still coaching today, but you coach on slightly different things. So what does that journey look like? How has that sort of evolved?
So I have been a health coach since 2013. And then in 2018, that mastermind that you and I went through, that we met through, up until that point, I feel like my coaching business was, making income, not even 5-10K months, but making income, less than 5,000 a month, which was fine because I couldn't do much because I had a 9-to-5 career. I was also working liquor promotions and bartending and doing all the things. So my time was limited to how much clients I could do. And I was only offering one-on-one sessions at that point. So for the first 5 years of my coaching business, all one-on-one. But I had no direction. I didn't even know business coaching was a thing. So, and I didn't even I just didn't know the next step of support, the next level of support for coaches. So I really felt unfulfilled with my coaching business for those 5 years. I was working with anyone and everyone, to then, which when I went through that mastermind with you, learned about my niche and really focusing on that. And I was like, oh, it makes sense. I made, probably, I want to say probably like 75% of the investment of that mastermind while we were still going through the mastermind. And then I think it was like a month later when we wrapped that mastermind, I started filming Love is Blind.
Mm.
And I
remember you telling me that at the event that we were at together, you like whispered in my ear that you were going to be filming a reality show, and it was like such a big deal. And oh my goodness, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah. So yes, because I was filming when I came to that event.
Yes, you were. That's right.
Yeah.
And it was like super hush hush. Hold on. How did you get into Love is Blind? Because here you are, you're health coaching, you're joining these masterminds, you're investing in your business. You're also working a 9-to-5 job, which is a totally unrelated thing. But then you get on a reality show. Like, what was the gap?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll back up. 2018 was when I did the mastermind. 2017, I actually left the corporate. I left the 9-to-5 space.
Got it.
Because I had been personally training also.
Of course.
Swear to God, doing the most. I was personally training and I was receiving messages like, you're changing my life, like your workouts, but not just your workouts, just your words. Like, you're empowering me through your words and your language and everything. And I was like sitting there at my 9-to-5 one day and it was like, I've been here for almost 8 years and I have never had anyone tell me I'm changing their life.
Ooh.
This is like a problem.
Yeah.
So I decided to like leave that corporate job. It was great. It paid a check, it just was unfulfilling for me. Right. And it's not to knock anyone in a 9-to-5 because there's a lot of people that love their 9-to-5s, but I just was not one of them. So 2000 and like the end of 2017, that was pretty much kind of like when my like whole self-love journey started. And then 2018, the beginning of that is when I like went head, like just like straight into it. Started listening.
Was there a catalyst? Like, what was the reason? What was the interest that piqued into all of a sudden self-love?
I think I just recognized, So there was a guy, this was like a month before I quit the corporate job. There was a guy who started following me on Instagram. This is like this is like so interesting, but there's a guy who started following me on Instagram. So I'm like, this is this random guy. Click on his page and I'm like, okay, he's like super hot. So attractive. And, but he was a graduate of IIN where I went to school as well. Sure. To get my health coaching certification. I was like, that's cool. Like, I don't know any other people except for those that are in my alumni like class on Facebook. So we connected because I was watching his Instagram story one day and he said something like it was like his birthday. I responded and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, it's your birthday. Mine was yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God. So anyways, we start having dialogue and we were both health coaches. We graduated like 2 years apart from each other. Our birthdays were literally a day apart, the same age. Like so many like similarities in like who we were as people. His like journey, his story, like everything was very similar. And then what I was personally going through as far as like my weight stuff that I had like some weight changes and I was really going through that. And so he was kind of helping me like learn more about like our metabolism and how that works and hormones and all the things. And that's what he was specializing in. It's actually helping women with that. And while also watching his stories and things that he was posting about all the time, was like meditation and personal development books. And I was like, okay, no hot guy that I'm around here in Atlanta is doing any of that. Like, okay, there must be something to it. So I think he had suggested a couple of books and those were like the first books. And then he was like, yeah, journaling has just been like really a big part of things. So I started doing it.
Wow.
And I feel like too, like when you like someone, you kind of like express an even bigger interest in like what they're into. So like him and I, we talked like as friends, but I knew that we were both kind of like romantically interested as well. We never met, still have not met to this day. He's now he's now married and like has a kid on the way, but he was actually I had him on my podcast last year.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, but I cried. I like totally cried because I was like, you were like a messenger to me,
Yeah.
like sent from heaven, this angel man, and you changed my life. Like
Mm.
whatever message you had for me changed my life. Like, yeah, I mean, I thought I was gonna marry you, but I mean,
Yeah, but either way, I think it's really important to just like pause for a second on this. I know you and I are going to talk later about the big following, right? I mean, you have 400,000 followers and people think that they need that for business. And here you are talking about a time that you weren't an influencer, quote unquote, right? You weren't on this reality TV show yet. You didn't have the presence that you had, yet this man starts following you and you start dialogue with probably just a couple hundred or a couple thousand followers. And someone like that could still impact your life to that degree. And I think that's so huge because so many of our listeners, especially when they're getting into business and they're new, things like imposter come up, and why would someone care what I have to say? And why would someone follow me? And am I an expert enough? So I just want to just pause and reflect back. Like you just said, this man literally changed your life, right? He offered you these tools, even if it was because you were flirting with him or whatever, right? But it's like, he offered you these tools and he was showing you a different way. And that's just so incredible because that's the power that we have on social media. That's what we get to do with each other.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool. So yeah, so I would say he was the catalyst, I guess, that did it, but also just like taking a step back and auditing, like, Kelly, you have been doing literally the same song and dance for 5 years. And so coincidentally, like that 5 year mark of me getting my health coaching certification and starting my, side business per se, I had just recently had gotten out of a relationship too. So there was a lot, when I say song and dance, it was a lot of like reckless dating and binge drinking and just doing things that were not in alignment to where I wanted to, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be doing, anything like that. And I'm like, you've literally been doing this for 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting any closer to a boyfriend for like,
Yeah.
something has to change. Something has to change because nothing changes if nothing changes. So I was like, I'm like pulling the report on everything. I quit the 9 to 5. I'm pursuing entrepreneurship. There like in my immediate family is not an entrepreneur. Like my sister is, but I guess my parents I'm speaking about. And then I was like, even to that, like the beginning of 2018, I was like, even more has to change. Like I'm staying in on Friday and Saturday nights, and I'm going to read personal development books, and I'm actually going to watch TV because I didn't do that either for 5 years. Like I was so like either busy with work or busy with social life because I was so disconnected within.
Yeah.
That, like I said, I didn't even make time to watch TV. But yeah, so I was like listening to podcasts and like getting involved in, I think Angie Lee's was the Facebook or yeah, it was the Facebook group or the podcast that I listened to first. And then I was like, cool, I loved what she had to say. So I got into her Facebook group, met all of you lovely humans. Then we did the mastermind and like, that was great. But yeah, my business started to take a turn after Love is Blind. And I'll tell you how I got into Love is Blind. But after Love is Blind, we got done filming. I hadn't been working with anyone while we were filming. So 2 months had pretty much gone by. And then I was just like a wreck. Like just a lot of what just happened kind of thing.
Can you just give us a quick synopsis of what was portrayed? So if someone has not watched the show, I obviously did. I don't watch reality TV at all, ever, but because you were on it, I watched every single episode. And that was actually at the beginning of pandemic. And I remember just blowing through that whole season. So for someone who hasn't watched, it's a reality show on dating. And what was sort of your character that they've created and what happened?
Yeah. So long story short, they made, I would say that they did a good deed. Like I felt really good about how they portrayed me. Like they didn't make me like a total villain.
You weren't a villain. Yeah.
I wasn't a villain. Yeah. But so me and the person that I met, for those who didn't watch, we did like speed dating behind a wall, like literally Love is Blind. So we were speed dating behind a wall, never saw the person, got engaged without ever seeing the person that we most connected with. And then we spent time in Mexico, lived together for 4 weeks. And then there was a wedding at the end, whether you say I do or I don't. I said I don't at the altar.
Yeah. Was that hard?
It was hard. I think it was just I don't know. I don't necessarily know why it was hard. I think just because like we obviously have an audience, like it really was like a wedding, like there are people there. And I think just being so vulnerable, and knowing that, hey, this is like the last day of our filming, more or less too. Like
Yeah.
all of this is coming to a close. The person that I had connected with that I was maybe about to marry, we had conversation about the fact, like, we were like, we don't think that this is right. Like, we don't want to get married this way, but we'll continue dating after the show.
Okay.
And the day after filming, we had a conversation and he was like, I'm not available to date. I need to get back into like real world. And like in hindsight, and I spoke intelligently about this like a year later, to him. I was just like, in hindsight, although I felt extremely rejected and heartbroken and everything, and like literally the rug had just been pulled out from underneath my feet, I understand like how self-aware he was. Like he was like,
Yeah.
I'm not available for a relationship. This rocked his world too. And he needed to get back to his normal life. And I heard, I don't want to be with you. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was a lot of rejection pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like really rocked my world. And I felt just really lost and disconnected again. Like I feel like almost like after all that work that I had done earlier in 2018 and late 2017, it was like, where is it? Because I felt very unworthy of love again.
Yeah.
All that. And now I'm like 2 months out of, having money coming in from my business. So I'm like, great, I'm broke and I'm alone.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was actually a gift being on the show because it maybe showed you parts of yourself that you still had an ability to work on, or was it just a horrible experience all around? But how do you see it today?
Yeah, no, I never thought that it was ever a horrible experience. Like I loved the experience I think it was more of like a confusion. Like I was able to compartmentalize my feelings for him and like our relationship and then the filming. Like I was like, I would totally do a reality show again. Like that was so fun. I just, what did we say earlier? I want to be an actress when I was younger. I like the cameras. I really did. I loved filming. Like I thought it was great. But yeah, it was so overall, I think it was a great experience. I learned so much about myself. Yes, leaning into the red flags, because although we had that conversation, I felt like there was a rug that was pulled out from underneath me. Looking back, I was like, okay, there were moments where something felt off.
Yeah.
Like where I felt like we were really strong and that dating was a very like no brainer. There were moments leading up those last maybe 2 weeks prior to that something fell off.
Yeah. What was the gap of time between when you ended filming and then when the show actually aired?
18, 19 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you on a journey by yourself, just kind of doing all this healing, or did it really speed up and sort of pour gasoline on the fire when the show came out?
A little bit of, I want to say a little bit of both. Because it was a month after we got done filming the show. Like I said, I just felt like I was all over the place because of the rejection pain. That I invested in a business and mindset coach. I was like, I'm going to invest in a business mindset coach because I need to get my business where I want it to be. What we do, we avoid feeling what we need to feel. So I was like, I'm going to go all in on my business. Fuck this guy. I'm going to go all in on my business. So I did. And of course, like the first week, the first session was like, let's address what's going on. Like highly emotional and everything.
You're like, no, I need a launch funnel. Okay. I just want a launch funnel.
Strategy. I need to make money. But it was funny because I even like to this day, I joke with this girl and I'm like, yeah, you did more for my mind than you did my business back then. But like, that's the season of life that I needed. Like, but with that, I spent 4 months working with this girl and she was so helpful for me in so many different ways. I mean, just looking at all of my wounds and like limiting beliefs around everything and fears and doubts and all of that, that I was like, I don't know what you just did with me, but I know for a fact, I've never given that type of impact to one of my past clients.
Wow.
And so I knew that I had to start incorporating this mindset work into my business. However, because I was learning the business stuff and like we had just gone through that mastermind, 6 months or, a few months prior to, I was like, wow, now I know like how to create a digital course and like sell one-on-one offers and like all this stuff. So now I have this like whole business strategy, behind me too. I was like, I don't want to talk about food or exercise anymore. Like, I don't want to do business and mindset coaching, like whatever. And I will say this, it has since like, I guess it's 2019. So it's been 3 years. What I was just telling you before we started recording, it's like, just recently started feeling like, okay, Kelly, you've been saying you've been wanting to do business and mindset coaching for 3 years now. Like, it's time. It still lights you up to talk about those things. And the mindset piece I have been doing, and I have had a handful of clients over the last 3 years that I have been able to coach through and do strategy work with, but I haven't been showing up as that on social media more public. And so that's where I've been like holding myself back. So my business has transitioned. It freaking transitioned 3 years ago. I just didn't transition with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I feel like
Okay.
I haven't gotten into it.
Yeah, totally. So what I'd love to talk about, because you've told us about the transition, you've told us about business. And before we started recording, you were telling me a little bit about business, and you brought something up that I just think is so helpful. So here you go, you're on the show. And of course, basically get famous, for lack of a better term, overnight. I mean, you and the other cast members just exploded. Everyone's at home quarantining. This show comes out on Netflix. It's like the #1 trending show. I didn't know a single person who didn't watch it.
Wow.
And you go from however many followers you had, a couple thousand, I'm sure, to basically 500,000, like overnight, right?
Yeah.
What came with that? What was the misconception of when that happened? What type of pressure came with that? And then let's shift to today, what it actually means.
Yeah. I felt like a lot of anxiety, came from it.
Yeah. It's a lot of eyeballs.
A lot of eyeballs. So side note, in 2019, as I said, I was transitioning my business, but I wasn't confident enough in it. I wasn't like, what is it? The energetic match. I wasn't an energetic match for like what I was. So because my business was transitioning, I wasn't making money because I didn't know how to like confidently talk about this new me, I guess, this new business idea that I was having. I should have just eased people, like taken people from the health coaching into the mindset and like done it that way. But I was like, nope, I'm a very impulsive person. We're just done with health coaching. We're going straight into this. But I kept flip-flopping. So like I said, for like 3 years, I kept flip-flopping. Anyways, I went back into corporate. So fast forward, because I needed to make money, I had to live. So show airs. I'm working my 9 to 5 or 7 to 5. I had to be at work at like 7 or 8 a.m. The show that first month that the show was airing. So it aired on I think it was like every Thursday, every week. And there was like 3 to 4 episodes that were launched. We never got to see a preview. Okay. So when you guys saw it, when the world saw it, we saw it. They dumped it at midnight Pacific time. So it was 3 a.m. Eastern time. I was like, I'm getting up. So I would get up at 3 a.m.
Wow.
Watch it before I went to work as much as I could, so that I knew what people were DMing me about or commenting or whatever, because I could not sit there all day and wait until 6 o'clock at night to like watch it. So I was up from like 3 a.m. until, I was probably going to bed at 11 o'clock midnight. And then I was, like, it was crazy. Right. So sleep affects your anxiety. So tighten there. But it was a lot of pressures. It was a lot of, I felt like this like newfound responsibility of maybe having to talk about important political topics and things like that. And of course, Black Lives Matter happened 3 months after our show aired. So yes, I felt compelled to maybe speak on that topic, and I did. And it, I want to say I could have minorly gotten canceled because I used some politically incorrect verbiage, and that went the wrong way, obviously. So that was hard. I did not show up for a whole week on social media because I was like, oh my God, anytime I show my face, I feel like someone's just going to be like, you're racist or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, like I just totally fucked up.
Did the network, do they offer any sort of like coaching, mentorship, guidance once something comes out where they're like, oh, P.S., you're going to be famous in like 24 hours. So here's how you navigate all of this stuff. Was there any sort of guidance? No, nothing.
No.
Were you seeking any guidance on your own at that point?
I want to say maybe I was working with a coach, but maybe, you know what? Actually, no, I don't think that I was. Yeah, no, actually, yeah, maybe I was working with someone, but it wasn't like obviously
specific to that. Yeah.
specific to that. So it was not as supportive maybe as it could have been. But yeah, it was, like I said, that is like one thing I like reality TV, like they need to make it mandatory, like for therapy. Like you need it. We all need it. There's something that is going to rock us, whether it's what was shown on TV or how our character was portrayed, just the influx of eyes on you from social media. Yeah.
What about friends and family? Were people like disappointed in you, or did you have anything with friends and family that ruffled feathers behind the scenes or anything?
No. So I felt really good about friends and family were like really good. Like, Kel, we know you, like, we know, that whatever was shown. And again, you weren't like painted as a villain. You just made the unpopular decision of saying no at the altar. And that's what they showed, kind of. So I was the bad guy, I became the bad guy. I was turning someone down at the altar. Why didn't you, if you knew you weren't going to marry him, why didn't you tell him before you got to the altar? And I'm like, hello, y'all, it's contract. Like I would never have done that in real life. So, but yeah, it was just like the responsibility of feeling like I had to talk about certain things. While also just I think it was more of the anxiety that was building up within me. I mean, I remember like months after I like told my parents, yeah, I'm in my 30s, but we still rely on our parents sometimes. But I was like, I need to quit my 9-to-5 job. And I was not, because my business was still not like financially stable, I can say. It's like, my parents were like, but you can't, like, what are you going to do? Like your business is where you want it to be. So you're not making enough money to support yourself. So you can't, in a sense. And I'm like, oh my God. So, but it was a lot. And I would say this, I was still showing up coaching. I was probably the most, and I still am the most seen of my castmates on social media. I am constantly on my Instagram stories. I mean, I'm very on. I'm on all the time. Where I feel like what happened for me though was that I was navigating this like, okay, I'm like, okay, should I ride the wave as an influencer and like give up my coaching business? But no, I can't, because I have so much valuable information. I know that I'm here to like serve a purpose and there's some impact there. But as I was still showing up as a coach, obviously going through the program of learning about your niche and everything, I'm speaking to more of an ideal client, where now I'm giving 500,000 people eyes on me. When I started to talk more specifically, my engagement dropped significantly.
Really?
So now I'm comparing myself to my castmates who are getting, tens of thousands of likes still on their stuff. And I'm getting like 2,000.
Yeah.
Great. I'm grateful for you 2,000 that love and like my stuff and you're here and you're supportive and everything. But it was bothering me. Like,
of course.
Hey, as an influencer, you do need engagement. As a coach, you don't need engagement. Like you do. But
so at this point, were you getting sort of influencer deals? Were you being presented with opportunities to get paid to monetize posts and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I want to kind of distinguish here, because we were talking about it, it's this thing that we always talk about. Followers doesn't equal revenue. More followers isn't better. In fact, like you just said, it can actually harm your algorithm when you have a bigger following and they're not really engaged. That's going to decrease the numbers of your reach, impressions, all of that stuff. But so we have two sides of the coin here. We've got like the coaching side of the coin where all of these new fresh followers maybe weren't doing you a service, right? They weren't doing the business a service. A lot of them didn't necessarily care about the thing that you were offering or selling. Maybe some did. So it probably did boost your business a little bit.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's like, yeah, but now you're presented with this opportunity of, the blue check mark to be verified, all of these followers, which when someone lands on your page, the human brain just instantly goes to, she's credible and worthy, which I can say that because I know you are, but also that's crazy that the human brain does that. It's okay. She has a lot of followers. She must be important. I must trust her. Right. So it's like you have this opportunity over here for influencer stuff. And then on the other side, you have your coaching business, which isn't necessarily exploding maybe the way that you thought that it would. So you talk about comparison and like limiting beliefs. I would imagine there was identity confusion as to even what direction to go in. So what did it look like at that point?
Yeah. It was not, it like the whole last 2 years has been an identity confusion. Like,
Yeah.
I'll say like one thing, like, okay, Kelly, and I'm like, I'm doing my meditation. I do my like miracle morning every day. Like I'm doing my
Sure.
visualizations. I know what I want. Like I see the people doing it. And I'm not that person that, like, yes, I was comparing myself to like the engagement of like my castmates and stuff, but like then I'm looking at my like coaching friends and, people in the coaching space. And I'm like, okay, I'm not comparing myself to them. It's like, I know what they're talking about. Like I have that same knowledge, but I'm not like converting people into clients with it. Like what am I holding myself back? Like, what is it? I was looking at it more of like a gap, between where I'm at right now and where I would like to be. And so I kept like having that to encourage me and empower me and get me back into alignment. So I may have been in alignment for like 2 weeks and then I would like get the like mental, like the ego would come in and be like, but your engagement sucked on that post. So maybe you should try the influencer thing again. And so I was flipping back and forth for the last 2 years about like, okay, maybe I'll just do like the, quote unquote influencer posts. And that sounds so like very limited, small minded when I say it and I just use quotations. Because I used to have that around. I feel we're all influencers at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
influencer in your business and your life. We all are. But when I thought of an influencer from like when influencers started years ago, it's like you think they're just like posting their cute little pictures and their cute little outfits and like good vibes only, like one-liner captions, like that kind of thing. I'm like a mini blog caption girl. I've always been that way. So it has been I guess restricting for me to do the one-liner captions or like the 3-sentence captions because I have so much more to say, but I allowed myself to limit myself from doing that because I'm like, well, I think that's what they want. They're not going to sit here and read all of that. Like whatever, it doesn't matter. And so it was just like such a identity confusion for 2 years. And I felt called to read the book A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Sure.
In January.
Yeah.
This year. And
it's a great book.
I'm reading this book and I was like, oh my God, that's what's going on. My ego and my spiritual self are having a freaking war.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that was like helpful. Granted, it took me a handful of months to like work through that. And I've been working through it all. But yeah, I mean, I want to say it's just up until recently that I was like, Kelly, you know what you need to do. Like, know how to like stand out. Like you see people who have like, I was thinking like, well, I don't know her like last name, but Natasha Garano, I think is like how you pronounce her name. Anyway, she's like blue check verified too, like all this stuff and has extremely high engagement. She's very big into mindset work and talking about subconscious reprogramming and all this stuff. And I'm like, I know exactly what she's saying. Like I could be her.
Yeah.
Why am I limiting myself? It's like, obviously she's resonating with people, but anyways, all that to say, like, even so just to back up last March, so 2021 March. So I went a full year, working that 9 to 5 and I quit or I left and quit. I don't quit anything. I left the 9 to 5 because I had 2 panic attacks because that's how strong the anxiety got, or that's how bad the anxiety got. So, and I was like, I can't do this.
Is that something that you had dealt with your whole life?
No, I've never.
Wow.
So I knew I was like, something has to go. And I'm not like my mom, but I'm not saying anything about my parents, but my parents were like, you're like a 9 to 5, it's consistent, it's safe, it's, it's secure income. Like, why don't you just
why don't you get rid of the social media stuff?
Yeah, why don't you get rid of the social media stuff or take a back step on your coaching business? Like you can always come back to it. And I was just like, no, like I can't. Like I mean I can, but like I had such a hard time like letting that go. And I think it's because there's just so much in me, that teacher in me. I'm like, there's so much I want to say. And I know that there's so much that I have to share to add value to people's lives and truly impact their lives. And me being at a 9 to 5 is not doing that. Like
Yeah.
it's just not. So I was like, I don't care if I'm making $500 a week, like, or $500 for 2 weeks. I can't be here anymore. I can't
Yeah.
do all the things, because I would have felt, had I tried to let the business stuff go, I don't know. Maybe I would, maybe it was like my own limiting things or fears around like me feeling like a failure kind
Sure.
of thing. So I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I was, I've been fine for a year and a
Yeah.
half. Like, no, I hadn't been making the money that I wanted to be making, but I swear God has had my back. And I've
Yeah.
like had these solo line clients come in and they're like, pay me last minute, pay in full for like an offer that I put out. And I'm like, I've never been talked to you before,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's it. That's that spiritual world.
Yeah. I have to acknowledge you publicly because you are a public figure and you do have this massive following. And I don't think, I know that people look at you and think, oh, it must be nice. She has it all. It's so easy. Ugh, it's so easy to build a business when you have a lot of followers. It's so easy when you have this, that, and the other thing, the awards, the accolades. And I just acknowledge you for being truthful, being vulnerable, and letting us know, not just on our show here, because I know I've heard you speak so many times before. You're like, no, actually, it hasn't been really easy. And I'm not making an insane amount of money and I'm not rolling in dough. And I just acknowledge you for that. I also want to acknowledge you just because you have always been vulnerable. And there are a lot of pretty vulnerable things that you do share, whether it's your body image, weight loss, feelings of maybe being unworthy. You've talked about your financials publicly, family issues, for lack of a better term, which again, I just acknowledge you for. Do you find it's easier? It's harder? Is it something that you just practice? How do you know how much to share? And did that change when all of a sudden you got this massive influx of all these strangers following you?
I don't think that I don't think it changed. Like, as far, again, I think my only limiting thing was like, oh, like the captions. Like, I wish that I was still writing mini blogs and I had been doing that the whole time. Like, because that's who I am. Like, that's
Yeah.
my connection piece. My vulnerability is my strength. And so I don't think, like, whenever I have been vulnerable, it's just proceeded with, it's followed with more people DMing me being like, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I've been feeling this way. It's connecting. That's like
Yeah.
what it is. So, I mean, I just have to, continue to find that again.
Yeah.
And like tap back into it. Cause yeah, I mean, I don't know how it started. I mean, even in 2013, when I started health coaching, like that was probably when I was obviously like sharing parts of a story on social media. And I don't even know if Instagram was a thing back then. Like, I don't even remember when Instagram came about, but I was probably on Facebook first sharing stories. But what is interesting about it is that like my vulnerability heightened when I went through the weight challenge, which was a few years later.
Yeah.
So, but I had to have been vulnerable enough for at least, or maybe I wasn't. Maybe my vulnerability didn't start until the whole 2015 and like my weight challenge thing. And then I was like real vulnerable with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how I was confident enough to share it, or
Yeah.
able to continue doing it.
Yeah. That would be my next question, because it's such a common question from clients. It's like, how do I get over the fear of sharing my truth? What would you say to someone that's asking you like, but how much should I share? How do I get over that fear? I'm afraid of judgment. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, I think as far as like how much to share, as particularly like if there are people close to you involved in this story that you're sharing, maybe making it more vague, making it more vague so people aren't like, oh, it's her sister that's doing this or her dad,
Yeah.
So definitely making it more vague, while also being able to still paint the picture of like how you are feeling experiencing certain things.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to hurt anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, granted, yeah, do some of us need the truth? Yeah.
Yeah.
We need the truth, but we don't want to do it at the expense of others. So,
Yeah.
but I would say too, I think, and this may have been like whether something I read in the book or maybe during our mastermind or something, it's like someone needs to hear what you have to say. And some, like, there is going to be someone that is feeling really lonely. Maybe they're going through the same type of thing, but they don't know who to talk to because they feel guilt or shame or embarrassed around it or something. And so, but then seeing someone post something very similar on social media or talk on their thing or do an Instagram live about the topic can really help that someone feel like, wow, okay, there is someone else going through the same thing. And so it's like, if you're not sharing parts of your story, you're really doing not just a disservice to your audience, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because I also feel like when you release, you're healing parts of you too.
Yeah. It's such an interesting, blurry, fine line. I've heard from people, books. I know certainly a mentor of mine once said, sharing when something has scarred rather than when it's still scabbed. And so for me, that's something that I've always kind of leaned into, or at least certainly in the last 5 years or so, where it's like, okay, I don't have to be fully on the other side of it, but have I been able to implement or embody or understand or comprehend enough of my own journey before I just start to share while I'm in it? Because while it could be a healing tool, what is the intention for your audience? What are they going to get out of it? And could you be doing them a disservice by sharing almost like too early, for lack of a better term? So I always loved this concept. I don't believe it fully to be true, but it's like, okay, maybe share when it's a scar rather than when it's a scab, allowing yourself a little bit of time. So for someone who wants to use parts of their story to share, but has those bad days, right? You had these panic attacks, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with a public figure. We all deal with comparison to our old self, comparison to other people, limiting beliefs, self-doubt, all of these things, we deal with them. What would you say to someone that just is like, how do I show up on a day that I'm just having a day?
Yeah. Two things with that. I would say find something. I mean, granted, whenever I'm not feeling well, I try and go into gratitude myself. Like personally, behind the scenes, go into gratitude. But maybe you're sharing that gratitude moment with your audience. Like not having the best day, but this made me feel really good. Dancing or walking out in nature, like, and sharing that with them versus the actual story of what you're going through.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going through a bad day. This is what I'm doing about it. Kind of encourages them. Oh, maybe I should go do that too.
Yeah. Some tools.
Influencer. But on the other hand, I made a post just recently, last week, about the mental health struggles that I've been dealing with since the show aired. It was, yes, something that I am still working through, as I said. I'm not completely on the other side of it, but I feel like had I shared it even sooner, I feel like it would have even made me have this like weight lifted off my shoulder a lot sooner. Because now, like, yeah, like everything works out as it's supposed to. Like, I feel good about it, but I'm like, wow, like the feeling I got from making that post, I really felt like a relief. And so what if I had done that 6 months ago, or even like 6 months prior to, when I was really going through the trenches, maybe how much even more connecting it would have been, and how much more I would have been less alone in my journey, you know? So I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like there are times when I'm at this scar point and I'm like, okay, you know what, this is what I did to get over this. But then I've also been very, very vulnerable in the scab part.
Yeah.
And again, it can be very connecting. I would say the biggest part when the wound is wide open is the concern. I don't know, I'm gonna say judgment, but maybe just the concern that you receive from your closest loved ones, your family and friends, when they're like, do you need to talk to someone? Or Kelly, do you have to be so, or maybe it is judgment. Like I have had that, like, Kelly, do you have to be so raw? Like, I don't think you need to share every bit of your story and like be as vulnerable as you are, or as transparent as you are. And I'm like, well, you know what? I had 5 DMs from women who really appreciated that story. So that's on you if it triggers you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I could talk to you literally all day. I want to be mindful of your time. So I have a couple questions just to wrap it up, but what are you working on right now? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I'm really excited to actually start business in mindset coaching.
You heard it here.
I love it. Like, it really does light me up, like talking about like strategy stuff and just like the mind and like really honing in on people's limiting beliefs. Like as soon as they start speaking, I'm like, that's limiting belief. Let's talk about it. Like, it makes me come alive. That I have a podcast too. So I'm constantly, Jess is going to be on my podcast too. So I really am excited to just continue with my podcast. That was something else. I took like 7 months off from working on my podcast. But it was all necessary. I needed that because I didn't have the direction. Like I said, the mental chaos was making everything feel all over the place. So I'm glad that I put a pause on it. Now we're like moving forward in a really good direction. I feel really aligned with the podcast too. And I'm working on a book.
I'm so excited.
So yeah.
I love that you're working on a book, from one long form post content creator to another. That just makes me so happy. I'm the same way. I'm like, I could write a dictionary or an encyclopedia for a single post, but that is really, really exciting. Is the book about your personal life or mental health or what?
All of that. Yeah, all of it. Pretty much like it's gonna be good. I'm hoping to incorporate maybe some journal prompts in it too. So it's
love that.
active. Mm-hmm.
All the way back to that guy on Instagram and like whatever year that was. Thank you, man, on Instagram, getting us into journaling. All these other people now are going to get into journaling because of you. And that right there is the ripple effect. So before I ask you the 2 final questions, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, if they want to work with you? What's best for them?
Yeah, best way is on Instagram, probably at Chase Life with Kelly. A lot of links in my link tree there in the bio. You can find me on my website, which is chaselifetogether.com. The podcast is Chase Life with Kelly, Spotify, anywhere, or Apple, iTunes, anywhere you can listen to a podcast, it's there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Love it. All right. Final 2 questions. If I were to write you a check for $50,000 tomorrow that you had to use or invest in the business, you could break it up if you want. You can use it in one lump sum. How would you invest $50K tomorrow?
In my business or just in general?
in the business. Yeah. For the business.
Ooh. Honestly, I would probably put it in a little bit of a savings account for myself right now. But I didn't feel like there was this big like money monkey on my back.
Yeah.
As there has been the last 2 years. So
awesome. Love it. Well, I'm not promising you that, but it's good to know where you would put it. Okay. And then the last final question, we named the podcast Digital Business Evolution because we believe that we're always evolving and growing and our businesses are a reflection of us. Mm-hmm. So what is your next personal or business evolution? Aside from business and mindset coaching.
Honestly, I actually want to start taking some acting classes.
Yes.
Yeah. Like actually be an actress.
Oh my gosh.
That's
so exciting. I love that. All right. I'm going to call you in like 6 months and hold you to it and see where you're at.
Yeah.
I love that. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show. I adore you. I'm so grateful for you. And just the last 4 years of supporting each other's businesses and going through the journey together. It's certainly not one that is fun to go through alone. So if you loved this episode, which I'm sure you did, and you have some juicy takeaways, please make sure you take a screenshot, share it out on social, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose and tag Kelly at Chase Life with Kelly. Let us know what your biggest takeaways are. That is the best gift that you can give back to our audience members or our experts that come on. And as always, cheers to your evolution.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.